The Trump administration is reportedly considering some changes to the U.S. refugee system that critics are calling a racial overhaul.
According to a New York Times report, the changes would slash the program to its bare bones and give preference to English speakers, white South Africans and Europeans who have been, quote, targeted for peaceful expression of views online, such as opposition to mass migration or support for populist political parties. A section that, as the Times points out, appears to be a reference to the German far-right AfD party. Vice President Vance has previously criticised Germany for trying to suppress AfD views. One AfD party leader, Bjorn Höcke, was found guilty of using a Nazi slogan, "Everything for Germany," but he denied knowing the phrase's roots. Höcke also got accused of whitewashing the Holocaust for saying at a 2017 rally that, quote, Germans were the only people in the world who planted a memorial of shame in the heart of their capital. The New York Times goes on. The proposed changes would put new emphasis on whether applicants would be able to assimilate into the United States, directing them to take classes on American history and values and respect for cultural norms. The report details that some of this plan has already been enacted. You may remember Trump, on his first day in office, suspended the refugee admissions program. Then, in May, the administration granted asylum to dozens of white South Africans.
In response to the new report from the Times, many on the left are calling the overhaul blatantly racist. Independent journalist Anthony Lowenstein lamented on X, quote, "The future of the United States is white, Christian, and intolerant." And law professor Timothy Caulfield, parodying the new colossus, writing, "Give me your white, your rich, your narrow-minded, yearning to breathe rage." Now, while the left is clutching their pearls, not everybody sees this overhaul as a bad thing. Florida Voice News' Eric Dougherty writes on X, "I hope this is true. We need to take in people who will assimilate into our culture. Make it happen." And Geiger Capital account on X echoed that, writing, "I voted for this. The Trump administration is looking at overhauling the U.S. refugee system, giving preference to English speakers and those who might better assimilate, being kind but prioritizing our own people." So if I were to make an argument in favor of this, I mean, it would start
if you were, hypothetically.
It would start with the fact that, I mean, if you put it to a vote, if you ask the American people how many refugees they want, they're going to say zero. They're going to, or very little. They want much fewer levels of immigration overall in every category. They want less immigration than I do on high-skilled immigration, on low-skilled immigration, refugees from war-torn parts of the world. They want none of that. So I think the defense of this is that it's in keeping with what the American people actually want their country. Now, a policy that abjectly discriminates on the basis of race is, of course, a non-starter with me. Whether they're white, brown, yellow, red, green, black, blue should not matter from the standpoint of accepting them. That is a flawed basis. But again, the American people want refugees who are likely to adapt to our cultures and customs, and being proficient in the language or being ideologically favorable to American ideals or Western ideals is something that I'm sure would be popular. It shouldn't be racially based, because people of Pakistanis or Nigerians of any ethnic background or religious background can want to share in our prosperity and support America. So again, it has nothing to do. It should have nothing to do with race itself. But I guess I'm not sure I would say that there should be no scrutiny of what the people's views are. I mean, it would just be grossly unpopular. Would you admit that?
What would be grossly unpopular?
To bring in refugees with no consideration of if they have, chanting death to America from any religious background or any perspective. If you ask the American people how many refugees who despise the American project would you like to bring in here, they're going to say zero.
Yeah, but that's not what this is about, though. I mean, you're talking there about people literally chanting death to America. For a start, I mean, that's just not what is going on here. The refugee program, it's maybe worth emphasizing, and I know you know this, but there is some confusion in public debates. This is a different program from people who arrive at the southern border and claim asylum status. There is a refugee resettlement program in this country. And there, I'm not sure when that distinction is acknowledged, if you're right in saying that the American people writ large would want the number to be zero. The number under Biden was capped at 125,000 a year in a nation of 330 million people. I mean, it's really not that many. But the central point to me, and the reason I object to this Trump proposal so much, is the whole point here is, are people fleeing persecution, fleeing abuse in their home country, in whatever the context should be? And if they are, and if they can prove that, then that is the criteria under which they should be admitted. And if they don't reach that criteria, they can be rejected on that basis. To suggest, for example, that people in Germany who object to inward migration into Germany are being politically persecuted in the same way that someone in Sudan, amid sort of civil war, is being persecuted, seems to me ludicrous on its face. And when things are suggested that are ludicrous on their face, I think it is valid to figure out, is there some other motivation? And this, from the Times' reporting, seems plainly to prioritise either white South Africans or white Europeans over people from elsewhere in the world.
Right. So I guess I might personally just disagree with the aims of the refugee program then. I don't think we have some burden to take in people who are being just persecuted elsewhere. Now, if the U.S. is the cause of the persecution, I favor reforming policies that are contributing to the destabilization of those countries. You would agree, to take an extreme example, Al-Qaeda is persecuting ISIS somewhere. We're not going to, ISIS is the victims of Al-Qaeda's political persecution and vice versa. We're not going to bring them in. So it's not, when it has nothing to do with us. But I'm still very willing to welcome people from other countries. But to me, the basis is not so much, well, are you being politically persecuted? It's, do I want you in my country? For instance, if there's Nazis in Germany or some, far-right underground, hopefully white nationalist movement that's being persecuted, yeah, I don't really want to bring them to our country because that's incompatible with our values. But having people who are successful at business or high-skilled or wealthy, who will contribute to our prosperity and don't have extremist values, that I'm going to say yes every time to that, regardless of what your ethnic makeup is or where it is. But it's not based on your persecution. It's based on what you can contribute to my society. Right,
but that's an issue of economic migration, though. I get back to the point that in refugee resettlement, the United States accepting 125,000 people a year as other nations accept similar numbers relative to their own population is not a massive ask for the greater good of humanity. And when people are prioritising white South Africans, for example, I think that A, the evidence that those people are being persecuted is extremely scant, and B, it is intended to make what I consider fairly noxious political point. President Trump has been blasted for comments he made at a memorial event for Charlie Kirk. We'll hear what he said after the break. Don't go anywhere.